Today, we are so excited to welcome Micki Byrnes. In January, Micki announced she was retiring from WKYC, where she had been president since 2015. Prior to that, she was station manager and VP of marketing, and she began at WKYC in 1997. Before joining WKYC, she had held local television management positions in Boston, Atlanta, San Francisco, and Orlando, as well as an earlier stint in corporate world here in Cleveland. But soon after her retirement, Micki made another career announcement, joining Adcom as the organization's new Chief Communications Officer and Senior Advisor, and is a week and a half into this new role. Micki is also active community leader, serving on the boards of Destination Cleveland, the Tri-C Foundation, and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and we are so very proud to call her a board member of Cleveland Leadership Center and as a graduate of our Leadership Cleveland class of 2005. Please welcome Micki.
Oh, thank you so much. I was looking at the list of who's on here, and oh my God, people, it's like I'm looking at like a slideshow of my life. It's everybody I've connected to over these past 20 years. And I would love to call out all of you. Maybe if we have a little bit of time at the end, I would like to do that. It's just I'm seeing, women I've served on boards with. Carla, I went to Honduras with Medwish, Eric Gordon, Armin, I just all of you, Valerie. I mean, it's so I'm so happy you're here. And I know that it's beautiful out and it's going to be shitty for the next couple of days. So giving up your sunshine is a big deal, and I appreciate it. Though I see Becky managed to do both. She's outside in the sun, so smart woman. All right, so as she mentioned, I'm going to talk for about 15 minutes or so, but literally there are no questions I won't answer. Well, maybe a couple, but in the big picture of things, a couple of legal ones, but in the big picture of things, I'm happy to, to talk about anything you guys want to talk about. But for the next few minutes or so, I'm going to speak to what I've been dealing with these past 3 or 4 weeks, and I'm calling it transitions, or why I do not want to pick corn. And this will make sense as I get into it a little bit more. So transitions, some we plan, some happen to us, and all of us sort of do it in a different way. Some are very thoughtful about their transitions, and they do research and they scope things out, and they're very methodical, and they do pros and cons. And some of us wing it, and I would sort of be in the wing it category most times. But as I look back, there's probably very few decisions that I would have, maybe there's a couple guys I would have not gone out with, but in the big picture, there's very few major decisions that I think I would have changed. But there's sort of this natural life cadence that happens. You go to school, you get a job, you find love, hopefully, you have kids, maybe. I mean, so there's sort of a natural life cadence to these transitions, and there's cadence in your personal life as well. I mean, for me, I've been local television for gosh, almost 50 years, and the cadence was smaller markets to bigger markets, or lower level jobs to higher level jobs. So when I look back at the 50 years, it was intern to corner office. So there was, again, this natural progression. I think many of you know I started in Bangor, Maine, because I was going to be a forest ranger. And of course, that didn't work out. So, Bangor, Boston, Atlanta. My husband actually hired me in Atlanta. His name is Brooke. He jokes a lot about that he couldn't find a wife, so he had to hire one. I thought he was that nice to all the department heads. I mean, what did I know? And before I knew it, we were kind of in love. And then we were transferred to San Francisco, which was fun up until the earthquake. And then we came to Cleveland for the first time. Gosh, I'm trying to remember the dates, probably 1991, maybe something like that. And Brooke was working for Channel 43 as GM, and I was doing corporate marketing for the group of stations that the company owned at that point. And then we were transferred to Orlando. And many of you have heard me say this, but if your name is Micki and you're working in Orlando, it's like really weird on multiple levels. And then we had an opportunity, the station was sold, and we had an opportunity to come back to Cleveland, and we took it. I mean, literally, we ran out of the station in Orlando, on our way to Cleveland as fast as we could come back. So it was wonderful. And we've been here for 27 years. And Brooke, because he was ahead of me in his career, the first couple of transitions happened for him. But I was happy. I wanted to be with him, so I was happy to go along. And then I carved out my own space and my own reputation, and then we started to be hired as a team. So, it's been again sort of this sort of straightforward kind of transition, and it kind of felt natural, kind of like, stepping across a river on stones kind of a vibe. But then last summer, the R word came up, retirement. And I got to tell you, I freaked the F out. And I was surprised, actually. And I shouldn't have been. I mean, I turned 70 this year. It's not like you'd get to do this forever or you'd even want to do this forever. So why was I so surprised? And what was bothering me about it the most? And I will tell you what was bothering me the most was, who was I going to be if I wasn't Micki from Channel 3 or Channel 2 or Channel 5 or Channel 8? Who was I without my job, without my role? It had been so much a part of my life forever that I wasn't sure who I would be and what I would do and what it meant. And I couldn't get out of my own head for a while. Meanwhile, we had a grandchild in St. Louis. Wait, see if he comes up. Oh, baby James, can you see? Can you see? We had a grandchild in St. Louis that I would love to spend time with. Brooke was getting older. We wanted to travel. Adam and I think I saw Diana on here. The folks from Channel 3 can tell you that local media was getting, how do I put this, ever more stressful. Um, and suddenly there were people younger than we were that were passing away or facing cancer. And at some point you go, okay, God, I get it. I get it. There is a good time for this. And this is probably the right time for this. But what does it mean and how do I handle it? Brooke's vision. So Brooke retired 10 years ago and he decided to be a farmer. I know it's weird, but I think it was an excuse to buy a lot of boy toys. We have lots of tractors and harrows and furrows and whatever. Anyway, so we grow vegetables for the neighborhood. We grow pumpkins for a local school and we grow sweet corn for the Cleveland Food Bank, or we have been for years. And I think Brooke had this vision of us in matching overalls, strolling through the fields, picking corn all day long. And I was like, hell no, that is not my dream. So I started talking to people who had recently retired or transitioned themselves and, kind of getting a vibe from them about how they dealt with it, what they thought, and what they ended up doing. We were okay financially. I mean, Brooke and I never lived beyond our means, and we obviously had plenty of vegetables to eat. We never, we're never crazy. So we met with, with a financial advisor. I think Heather's on here, speaking of fabulous financial people. And they do this cool thing. I don't know if you guys work with an advisor, but some of them use this thing called, I think it's called the Monaco or something. It's some kind of graph that basically shows you that you won't be eating cat food when you're 82 and that you have enough, so we were okay financially for me to step down. But again, this mental piece was making me crazy. And so I just did sort of this deep dive into other people's lives. And then I also started asking myself a lot of these questions. You know, why was I so uptight about this? It didn't have to be all or nothing. What still spoke to me? Why was, what was I learning through some of this sort of deep dive? And I learned that my skills, your skills are transferable. I learned that experience does matter, that you have value, that we all have value that I'm not sure we give ourselves enough credit for over the years. But if you're going to let your job define you, then pick a path that will speak to you no matter where you end up. In other words, make sure whatever that path is, it has some sort of exit applications or side roads or something that sort of keeps you exploring and keeps you moving forward. I kind of call it a thread that pulls you to whatever the next opportunity is. And what is that thread for you? So when I started asking myself those questions, it was like, what did I love about all the jobs that I had? And what didn't I want to give up? And part of it was the marketing piece of it. Many of you know I came up on the marketing side. And even as GM, I would be marketing like my vision to the station or my ideas to the station or my goals to the station. And I would be marketing Channel 3 to the civic community. And I would be marketing to clients. And so marketing to me was super creative, but it was also problem solving. And wherever this thread was going to take me, I still needed that piece of it. And the other piece of it was Tegna, the company that owned our station, had a company mission that I truly 100% believed in, and it was serving the greater good of our communities. Um, and that spoke to me as well. And I was lucky enough over the years, the multiple years, to have a platform to hopefully do that. And so even though I would be doing it in a much smaller way, and however all this worked out, it was still important to me. And you if you're gonna get up in the morning and you're going to do something, to me at least, it has to have meaning. So, as I'm sort of going through all of that and trying to figure out, where do I go from here? I'm on the Tri-C board, and the Tri-C board had engaged Adcom to help with a project in terms of foundation. So just to be clear, and Eric knows this better than anyone, there's the college and then there's the foundation. And the foundation's role is to raise money, scholarships, wraparound services, and other things that help attract and keep kids at Tri-C. And it's a great foundation with great folks on it, and more importantly, a great mission. And so Joe's team at Adcom was brought in to try to help them better define the funding model and a few other things, and we're sort of in the middle of working on that. So one night last fall, I guess, Joe and I went out and had a drink, and we were talking about the project and just trying to, we were going back and forth on stuff. And he said something that really kind of struck me. His vision for the project was that the foundation helps lift people out of poverty. And if you can get to school, if you can stay in school, you can get a job. And if you can stay in the job, you can start to create a stable housing, and you can have it, so this sort of baseline importance of what the foundation was super important to him. And he talked about how he was at a point in his career that, even though he obviously wanted to keep his agencies sustainable and successful, and trust me, they're doing fabulous, he also sort of had a higher calling, that he really wanted to spend his time now on projects that did that, that had that sort of making things better, serving the greater community piece of it. And I was like, take me, take me. This is what I want. I didn't say it exactly that way. We were at the Union Club, would not have been appropriate, but it made, it was like, yes, yes, that's what I want to do. So we started talking about stuff. And he asked me if I were interested in coming to work at the agency. And I said, well, yes, but it has to be part-time, Joe, because, I need a better balance in my life, and I need to be able to see my grandkid, and I want to travel, and I have Jake the wonder dog who has to go out so I need a balance. And he goes, yeah, yeah, no problem. So we talked about a title called senior advisor. Now, people, senior advisor, doesn't that sound part-time? Yes, that sounds lovely. That sounds part-time. And somehow between that conversation and when things went out, it turned into chief communications officer, comma, senior advisor. And I was like, this is part-time. You guys know, right? This is part-time. But it's been amazing. And I must tell you, it's a great group. I think Anne's on here. I've been here a week and a half, and the energy's great. The people are awesome, super creative, and I'm still kind of defining the role and exactly what I'll be doing. We can talk about that if anybody's got some questions. But it's great. I asked to be put with a younger team, and I'm hanging out with the young social team. In my group, there's 7 brilliant young women, and they are a blast. They're fun to listen to. They're teaching me a lot of stuff. I'm already wearing, wait for it, the agency sneakers. The high heels are gone. I know they'll get rid of my Talbots t-shirts and turtlenecks and pearls soon, but in the big picture, it's sort of re-energized me. It's been really fun to be a part of it. And one little thing, and we'll get into a little bit more real stuff. So first day, maybe it was the second day, I go into this, they have a beautiful kitchen, and there's this, you know what, like a water dispenser, like it's glass and it's like this big and it's got a spigot and stuff, and it's filled with water and ice, and it's filled with sliced fruit and little herbs and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, this is a spa. I love this. This is wonderful. What an interesting place to be. So it's been lovely. And I mean, I'm to a degree teasing about the whole thing, but um the thread, the thread about the marketing piece of it and about serving the greater good piece of it, the thread made sense to me, and this is the right place. And I mean, this is not going to be forever, most likely. Don't tell Joe I said that, but it's more the right step at the right moment. And when you leave a job like running a TV station, when you walk out the door, your power base goes away. Totally fine, totally legit. But I had 28 years of civic equity built up, and I didn't wanna waste it, as crazy as that sound. I wanted to use it to still keep helping, and this gave me a structure to do that, and so I said yes. So it's so far so good. I don't know how they feel about it, but I'm having a blast. So what did I learn through all this? And then we can start to open it up for more specific questions. But, I did learn that I'm not just my job title, that I did learn that I'm not just my LinkedIn, which is good because my LinkedIn is pitiful. The social girls are going to help me fix it. I learned that I'm more than that. And and that took me a minute to get there. But when you spend your life being introduced as, the GM or the newswoman or whatever, you wonder if once they pull that name tag off your chest, are you gonna be standing by yourself alone at the party? Um, and no, you won't. No, you won't. Maybe a different party, it may be a different group, but again, your skills and your experience really matter and make a huge difference. So for those of you who are younger, if you're just sort of starting out, I don't know everybody on this call, but, I would say don't chase the job. Chase what energizes you. Your identity is not going to be cemented in the first 2 or 3 jobs out of school. It just won't be. You know, what will define you is your curiosity, is your kindness, is maybe your weird hobbies or your desire to make things better. So don't don't get locked into anything in terms of your self-identity that early in your career. I mean, you can figure out that thread I talked about and the things that, make you you, but don't get locked into anything that defines you in a way you might not want to be defined 5 years from now or 10 years from now. If you're mid-career, you're not stuck. I mean, you're not a tree. I mean, you're not planted forever. Now, obviously, it depends on where you are in your life. If you got 2 kids in college, you might not want to take too many risks in terms of your career right now. You might need the stability, but you can always rewrite the map. You can always redraw your path. You can always kind of see where that thread might take you next. Because if you're in a place that doesn't speak to your soul, not even that, if you're in a place, you spend more time at work than you do with your family. If you're miserable at work, then you need to figure out what is a safe or less risky or some way, to follow that thread to the next place. Because how many of us know people, who died at 52? I mean, there's only so long you're willing to be miserable in an environment before you have to take, be courageous and figure out the next step. And if you're nearing retirement, again, I can't harp on this enough. You have value. You have deep life experiences. You have wisdom. The strongest teams I've ever built have been with a mix of people in the room, not all young, not just a really nice mix of ages and life experiences. And sometimes you just need that adult in the room to offer perspective and nuances. And especially like in a newsroom, we needed some of those long-term reporters who literally knew where the bodies were buried, but who could mentor those young reporters and give them a sense of nuance and context. And you have that in you. And whether that's a part-time gig at the next company, or whether that's a nonprofit role or a volunteer role or a mentor role or whatever it is, don't re d you take credit for that, don't shortchange yourself. You have much more to offer than you think you do. So but, let me see if I can wrap this up in a pithy way, though I have problems with pith. How do I say this? You're not a resume. You're you're you. You're you in motion, and damn it, you do not have to pick corn if you don't want to. You have the opportunity to do amazing stuff, and you get to choose how you show up, and you get to choose that even if it's, totally different from where you are now. And you're allowed to grow out of an old role, even though you loved it. And, I'm looking at the Adams and Dianas of my former world. I love everybody at Channel 3, and I truly miss them dreadfully. Um, but I don't miss what the job had turned out to be by the end. Um, and I was definitely ready more, and I realize that now more obviously on this side of it. I was ready to go. So whether you're 25 or 75, I guess the question isn't what do you do? It's what do you want to do next? What do you want to explore next? How do you be you in whatever the next piece of your life is? And hopefully I've learned a little bit of that over these past couple of months. So, okay, questions?
Micki, thank you so much for sharing such amazing insights. As you are transitioning from that full-time, get up every day, long days, to more of a part-time role balanced with that retirement, how are you building that balance? How are you embracing a different speed with your day-to-day?
Good question. And truthfully, I have to put boundaries up. I mean, I think that, I told Joe that I would do 2 to 3 days a week downtown. But I am going to have to enforce that. So, because I'm already like, well, I can help. No, I can, I mean, so I have to, that's on me. I mean, so part of it is being clear with the folks here in terms of the days I'm here and the days that I'm not. And I think that will grow. And part of it is I am doing all that travel that I hoped to do. I think the Destination Cleveland board trip goes to Oslo and Copenhagen in a couple of weeks. So I'll be gone for a week. And then the Rock Hall board meeting goes to Ireland in June. So that will be fabulous. And so, I'll make up a little bit on either side of that. But I think as I get more into it, I think there will be a natural schedule and boundaries, or I've completely effed this up and I'll be back working full time. But I think in the big picture, I can make it work.
You've mentioned the thread, and I think that's a wonderful way to look at the way to connect the experiences we have across our careers and our lives. For those of us who are still kind of building our career, how do you start to define or identify what that thread could be?
I think it's a combination of one, what you're good at, and two, um, I know it's going to sound very Marie Kondo or whatever the hell her name is. What sparks joy? I mean, when you're working on a project, and you're excited about it, and you can't wait to like to be a part of it and to give your vision and stuff. What is the piece of that that's really getting you excited? I always love to write, and even when I was going to be a forest ranger, I had this vision of, me in the fire tower, with a cute guy, and then but writing my memoirs or whatever. Or actually, it was probably going to be a sleazy romance novel, truthfully. So I always like to write, and so the marketing piece of it became the core of it is writing. And so as I grew into the marketing role, I was embracing my love of writing and getting better at it. And then the serving the greater good piece of it for me started to come out of my board work and realizing kind of early on. I mean, I always knew local stations had power. I mean, and power's not the right word. Influence, impact. Um, but it became more clear as I got out in the community more. Because when you're locked in a newsroom and you're running around doing stuff, I mean, sometimes you forget that every word you speak, everything you do, every eye roll, every mispronounce, whatever, has an impact on somebody out there. And you're looking through land. I mean, you don't have that physical, personal connection. But when you're out in the community on these boards or volunteering or whatever, that becomes more clear. And so my sense of wanting to make it better. I mean, Cleveland was my adopted hometown. I am an adopted daughter of the land, and I wanted to make it better. And so that spoke to me. So you guys will figure out what that is, what you're good at, what speaks to you, what you love to do. And then that sort of becomes more distilled, or the thread becomes longer or skinnier. I don't know, I'm mangling analogies here, but it becomes more clear the longer you do it. And the thread, the pull becomes more strong the longer you do it as well.
So often, many of our greatest leadership lessons come from the challenges we face. So, as you think about your time with WKYC, what are some of those challenges or one of the bigger challenges that really kind of solidified a leadership approach for you?
Well, I think the biggest thing that I've realized over the past few years anyway, though I sort of knew it inherently, is we, the industry, was incredibly blind to the changes that were happening to the consumer. In other words, you guys, our audience, our viewers, our readers, were so much further ahead of us in terms of how you consume content, in terms of what you wanted from us. We just sort of naively or stupidly thought things would stay the same. Even now, when you look at a newscast, two anchors, a sports guy, a weather, I mean, it's you could do the same. You could look back 50 years and it would look the same. And we have not changed to the degree that our audience needs us to change. And we saw what happened to newspapers and we still didn't pay attention. And the problem is the money's still in OTA, well, in linear. So linear viewing is doing this. I'm not surprised. I'm sure none of you sit down and watch at 6 o'clock. Well, hopefully some of you do. Eric, I know you do. As the so as linear viewing came down, I mean, digital streaming, all that's coming up, but the money is here. The money's not in digital yet. It'll eventually cross paths, but at the moment it's not. And so we did not figure out a way to invest in digital, to change our business model, to understand what the audience truly wanted way too late. So what's happened is we're scrambling. And instead of thoughtful changes, instead of things that take a little bit of time to massage and move forward, we're like, we're doging. We're doging our industry right now. And I mean, Rosie's a perfect example. We don't have we don't have a marketing department anymore, and we don't have a community department anymore. And I- how do I say this? Because it's recorded. I just, I don't agree. And so, I think the challenges are still ongoing. I think my challenge was keeping the team together, keeping the culture as strong as it could be, trying to through the rough waves of that change and keep people as whole as possible. And the couch in my office got a lot of where. But I wish I could tell you we had faced and risen to that challenge. We're still definitely facing it, as ours are so many industries, but we did it to ourselves. Lots of your industries, the world did it to you. We could have made it better. We could have figured it out had we started 15, 18 years ago.
We have time for one more question, and that comes from Elaine. What's the funniest story you can share from WKYC?
Oh my God, we'd have to do this over drinks, people. There's no way in hell I could tell you all the cool stuff that's happened over the years. Somebody asked me on a podcast, I did a podcast for a company called ERC, which is a cool company. It's the first podcast I've ever done. It was like, with the microphone here, it was really kind of cool. I don't know when it comes up in June or whatever. But anyway, she said something, she asked me about what was the coolest guest that had come to the station. And I must tell you, we've had so many stars and athletes and, politicians and half of you have been to the station and you were all more than cool. But the one person who, for whatever reason, struck a chord with everyone was friggin' Snoop Dogg. Literally, I came over to the PA. Guys, Snoop Dogg is in the lobby. He's going into Studio A. You would think it was like Prince William. People were running down the hall. Everybody wanted a selfie with Snoop. And this was like before he even blew up with, with the Olympics and all that kind of stuff. But it was hysterical. I mean, these older women who I guarantee you had no freaking clue who I didn't think they even knew who Snoop Dogg was. They were like, oh my God, Snoop, I love you. I love you. So yeah, it was a moment in time. And it just made me laugh. Even some of the photos are still, I think, out there on Facebook. So it was pretty cute. But you know what? Great run, fabulous team, love them dearly. We'll never forget all of it, and I wish them nothing but the best. Um, but I'm super excited to be here with Adcom and that team, and I've been incredibly lucky to be able to do both. So, hey, thank you guys. I really appreciate you all showing up and giving up 30 minutes of your son.
Well, Micki, thank you. And I think that's a beautiful way to wrap. And I'm sure I can speak for all of us saying we would stay on and listen for as long as you're willing to talk and share such amazing insights and stories. So thank you and best of luck to you in this next phase.